What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran. I help people using a spiritual perspective. Happy New Year, guys. I hope that you're still alive. If you're watching this and you're dead, congratulations. You no longer have to participate in things like holding the door open for other people, paying your taxes, going to the store and bumping into somebody that you met from high school and then have small chat. You don't have to do that anymore. But for the rest of you that are alive, welcome to 2023. I don't know what's going to happen, but presumably it'll be another year. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about 3 truths that are pretty much fundamental. So I was thinking about this topic. I was thinking about these truths I was thinking about them in my head, obviously, not someone else's head. But I was sort of inspired by trying to sort of condense everybody's experience or perception of life into the fewest amount of relatable sort of phrases, or just, the most basic truth of what we have in our perspectives, right? So truth is always this very relative thing that we like to claim or own, something like that. We want it to be ours, right? So then our mind can be right, and then presumably, we get to live happily ever after. But, being right is not necessarily what truth is. Because truth is fluid and relative, and we all have different perspectives. So I've narrowed it down into 3 basic truths. And the first one is that life is not black or white. Okay? And all this really means is that it's not one or the other. It's not right or wrong. Those are more like judgments, and judgments are things that the mind comes up with. For instance, all wrinkly red shirts suck. Okay, that's not a truth. It's black or white, right? It's saying one thing is all the other, right? So one group of people, one idea, one thing is wrong. It's this way, and the mind likes to operate in black or white narratives because it makes it easier to categorize things. However, life is not that simple. Truth is not that easy. And the things that we learn through life, as we grow, the quicker that this sort of bland truth, life black or white, becomes very disillusioning. And I think that the older you get, the less true that obviously seems. Okay. So number 2, the second truth, is that just because something is true for you doesn't mean it will be for someone else. Right? So we may find things that resonate with us, that we like, people that we like, conversations that we enjoy, but that doesn't mean that those truths or those conversations are going to be applicable to other people. There are times where people get something from some guru or some YouTuber or some article or some book or some person, and I really just don't like it. It doesn't help me. It doesn't get me to where I need to go. Maybe it's because of my personality, because I'm stubborn, or because I want to learn things on my own. Maybe it's because I didn't like the way it was said. A good example of this would be there's a twin flame guy on YouTube. And his name is like Twin Flame Alster. You probably heard of him if you watch Twin Flame stuff. And that guy sucks. I don't like that guy whatsoever. But he seems to maybe help other people, but his personality is totally not. I really don't like it. So for some other people, that guy may inspire them and get them to where they need to go, but he doesn't get me where I need to go. And that's just a very small example. And I don't care about calling him out. So there's plenty of those little instances in life where something may work for you, a conversation, a person, a friend, and it doesn't mean that same thing is going to work for somebody else, because we all have different experiences, we all go through things at different times, and we all have different ways of interpreting the world, either just because of our psychological patterns, our conditioning, or the preferences that we have, or even things like gender or race, right? An example of this would be, a lot of therapists, most therapists are white or Caucasian. So imagine if you're a black woman and you want to see a therapist. Well, you might want somebody who understands the struggles of being a black person, especially in places like the United States. And you might not resonate necessarily with a white doctor. Right? In the same way that going to the doctor's office, you may prefer the same gender, or whatever kind of scenario, right? But I think you kind of get what I'm saying, is obviously things will not always work for different, just because they work for you, they won't always work for somebody else. And that's totally fine. And that's just a basic truth. Now, the third basic truth that I've narrowed it down is just because something works for you at one point doesn't mean it will again, right? It doesn't mean that it will at another point. So it's like the difference between going out for a drink with friends, having a good time, you're catching up, 1 or 2 beers, in my case, probably be a cider, and you go home, a couple hours, you have fun, great, and that's the night. You had an enjoyable experience. But alcohol in that setting might be different than drinking at home, watching reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond. That might be really depressing and sad, and you might not feel very good. And then maybe those 2 or 3 beers or ciders turns to 3 or 4 or 5, right? And so the things that we do don't always resonate at different points, right? Another way of putting that is things don't always work, right? The food that we eat at one point may work for you and then it doesn't at another. And an idea might work for you at one point and doesn't at another. Even within the same month, you may do something with success 3 or 4 times, and then the context of the scenario changes just a little bit, and then suddenly you have to do it a different way. It doesn't work anymore the way that you were doing it. And so then you can never really rely on your own truth because it changes. It depends on the situation, the person, the context, what you're going through, what your mental state is like, where in the world you are, what you're dealing with. Right? There's a lot of different variables. And so each of these truths tell us that there is no one specific method for any person, and that life is not black or white, and that the things that we may do now may not work in the future.